Welcome to the Future of Payroll and Workforce Management Insights by HR.com, your go-to resource for insights into payroll and workforce management. From navigating compliance and technology trends to exploring the latest in global payroll solutions, we're here to keep you ahead of the curve. Join us as we dive into the forces reshaping payroll and share practical strategies to optimize your workforce management. Let's get started. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Future of Payroll and Workforce Management, a podcast here at HR.com, where I am your host. My name is Brent Skinner, and with me today is my guest, Heather Ebanks, Director of HCM Systems and Payroll Services at Redberry Restaurants. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Brent. Thanks for having me. It's good to be
Oh,
here.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for agreeing to do this. We're going to talk about from sort of the journey from payroll manager to chief payroll officer, which we've been thinking a lot about in this space lately. Is the profession ready for it? What's the next evolution? It's going to be a really interesting conversation.
Right.
What I like to ask all my guests first, though, is at the outset is in payroll, like what got you into payroll? What drives you every day? This always an interesting story. I'd love to hear yours.
Sure. Okay, so how did I get into payroll? Well, I've always loved numbers. Most of my life, I wanted to be an accountant from the age of 3. And as I was doing my studies, I was taking accounting, and then I realized, ooh, that's not really what I want to do anymore. So after graduation, I got a job working at Fidelity as a customer service associate, and basically from there they had outsourced services, and one of those services was payroll. So that was kind of, I didn't realize that was a thing. It was talking about taxes and tax law and things like that. So I thought, oh, I really like this. It marries numbers with like regulation information. It just seemed right up my alley. I like helping people. It just seemed like a perfect blend. So I stumbled upon that, and then I started doing my studies after that job ended. I started actually first being a Canadian person. I started doing my PCP courses at the first level of designation. And then I got a job as a payroll analyst, and I actually started doing U.S. payroll. So that I kind of dropped the Canadian payroll stuff and focused on U.S., and then got my U.S. certification, my FPC. I then became a senior payroll analyst. Our company went through a major merger, and I became a payroll supervisor. From that payroll supervisor route, I had been doing that for a long time, had a lot of experience with system conversions at that point. So I thought, okay, we went through a lot of different systems. I am not doing any more system conversions. I am well weary of that. Then I became a payroll manager for a Canadian company. So I then pursued I finished out my Canadian payroll designation, and went all the way to my, what is now the PLP level.
Cool.
And then I landed at Redberry Restaurants, with doing an implementation. So I decided that I had been through enough systems and conversions that I didn't necessarily like the outcome of the design, the experience working in payroll. And having experience with a lot of conversions, I just knew I had really good ideas. I knew how to make systems really scalable. And so I actually implemented HCM technology at Redberry, our UKG Pro system, as well as our UKG Pro WFM timekeeping system. And after those implementations, I also then recently got promoted to the director of HCM systems and payroll services. So that's why I have certifications in Canada and America for payroll.
Fantastic! Wow, what a story! You've done a lot. And I am impressed. And actually, we got into when we were talking in the green room about a week ago. We have a green room here. We're not a late night talk show, but we do have a green room. And we talked about this.
as another potential topic for the future, maybe having you a guest again, talking about HCM system implementation, that sort of stuff, which is a topic near and dear to my heart too, having looked at it in the past from the industry analyst perspective. But so let's pivot back to Chief Payroll Officer, however, and just hearing your background, you're the perfect sort of person to kind of speak with authority about, what it means. What are the implications of having a chief payroll officer and why we need it, and 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 we're going to talk about that today around the topic, around the dimension of technology, right? We have AI and automation, all this kind of stuff that's kind of taking a lot of that administrative work, processing work off
Yeah.
the payroll, the typical payroll practitioner's plate. And we've heard a lot in the space. We all go to conferences. I think we are both at PayCon last month, and we hear about AI, and is it going to sort of displace payroll professionals? Like, what's going to happen? And maybe there will be some types of work, some kinds of work that'll be sort of sunsetted, right? But you're of the opinion that it's actually going. This is an opportunity, and I share this optimism with you that this is a real opportunity. So let's get into the first question that I have for you around this. As artificial automation more routine automates more routine sort of payroll
Mhm.
tasks. Why am I getting all tongue-tied? Payroll tasks. What new skills will distinguish the next generation of payroll leaders? Like, what do the next payroll leaders, next evolution, next sort of generation of them, what do they have to have as skills?
So some of the skills that come to mind, and it may seem like, okay, well, you need this as a payroll professional, so why are you mentioning this? But just hear me out. So
Mm,
critical thinking.
mm,
A lot of times in payroll, especially when you're kind of starting out, and because most people don't know it's a profession, you're not usually certified before you start payroll. You usually just
mm,
start doing it. Maybe there's a need in a company or you find something out, you just start doing the work. And the way you get through the work is by following a procedure. There's usually like a, a Word document saying, hey, just do these steps, follow this checklist, and submit to the bank. So
mm,
you kind of get into this, and then you have tools. If you don't know things, you might ask your manager, depending on what kind of system you have. You might use their support and they would give you answers. So you can kind of get in this rhythm where you're kind of just being told what to do and you're following instructions. And then if a nuance comes up, uh, people help navigate you through it. So it's
mm,
not that you can't think through things critically. You just don't have the opportunity as much sometimes to use that muscle. With the introduction of AI and eliminating the routine tasks, then your job becomes not just using AI to help get you pay processed. You also have to govern AI. You have to make sure that AI is doing what it should be doing. Even though you're doing the task, are you doing it correctly? If it's
mm,
not correct, why is it not correct? Or if
mm,
it seems like it's correct, you still have to scrutinize, is it truly correct? So the
mm,
payroll professional would then have to foray into, I'm not just using this technology like I use the other system. I am now skeptical. I'm a supportive skeptic of this technology. I like what
mm,
it's doing for me. I appreciate it's bringing efficiency, but I am skeptical of what it's doing. I'm skeptical of its outputs because you have to be. You have to train AI. You have to tell it what is right, what is wrong. And until it gets the model right, you have to be under constant validation, which is
mm,
kind of different from what, you know, a typical payroll processor might do today. They're just used to, hey, I can trust the system. If something goes wrong, then I know that something went wrong with the system. But if everything looks good, it should be okay. But even in my career, I have found sometimes when coming into new teams that, hey, did anyone notice this was wrong? Like I know the result has been the same, but the same output has been the wrong output continuously.
Right.
So, definitely I would say critical thinking is one of those important skills that
Yeah.
they would need.
Absolutely, right? Because that's also a sort of a bedrock of leadership, right? As well. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I think I now maybe also empathy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, uh, so I think anytime you introduce technology, there is a
Mm,
stabilization period. So if everyone's a little bit hesitant with AI unless it's usually deeply entrenched in some existing system that, hey, we're going to let you run amok. But, there are stabilization issues that have to be brought to rest. And
mm,
so if we're talking about stabilization issues, well, we're introducing AI and, we do our best, but sometimes we miss things. There could
mm,
be a little bit more pay issues. There could be an
mm,
uptick in that. So you're definitely going to have to learn how to manage emotional intelligence in terms of navigating those scenarios, empathy, like you called out for sure.
mm,
Um, and even within the business, because you're taking away the routine tasks, part of the perspective from my vantage point has been not that payroll couldn't do more at a more strategic or a more visible level. It's simply also they didn't have the time. You're always under a deadline.
mm,
So now that you have that time kind of removed as a result of AI, then you have to develop other skills like the art of storytelling. Um,
mm.
what have you been doing all this time? Okay, we have AI now. Why do we need to keep you? Because weren't you just paying people and AI is doing that now? So why do you need to be here? Well, there's more to what I do. There's more to how I've been contributing to the business. Let me tell you how.
That's huge. That's huge because every payroll department at some point in the next 10 years, I think, is going to get to that point where where the technology has reached a point where it can do all that processing stuff, all that operational stuff, and you maybe just want to have one person kind of, for lack of a better term, babysitting it or it's probably a better term than that, but in any
Yeah,
event,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
keeping an eye on it. Yeah, like just
exactly.
being sort of like a chaperone. It would be
100.
AI's chaperone. Let's put it that way, right? And
Yes.
and what what every payroll department is going to is going to face that point where they need to have that story to tell. You're right, that story to tell leadership so that, hey, this is why instead of hearing, oh, what do I need you guys for anymore, right? Instead of
Right.
hearing that, being able to shift that and say, oh wow, okay, cool, now I can use you guys for much more like elevated stuff, much more sort of strategic stuff. And that's a great segue here actually to talk about that chief payroll officer. We've been hearing about it, 30 by 30, which is a movement out there, sort of I think is a joint sort of initiative between Payroll Org and Chime Workplace, I believe it is.
Mhm.
Um, and but even just the idea of an executive level, like even a VP or a senior vice president of payroll, somebody at the executive level who is sort of leading the charge and hey, we're paying people, like people are our greatest asset in the organization, and let's face it, let's not like be funny here, like the vast majority of them are working first, like the a main reason they're working is to earn a paycheck. I'm sure a lot
Yes.
of them like their job, and that's
Yes.
great, right? But
Or
very few of us have the luxury not to work without getting paid, right? And so there's
100%.
sort of this unspoken I'd love to be one of those people, but that'd be awesome. But anyway, uh, and so that is incredible. That's like an indispensable aspect of operations and of the business. And
Mhm.
how can we leverage that? Like, so what are those stories going to look like, Heather? Like, what does that story kind of look like?
Yeah, I mean, the story is more so about, okay, so you've taken away the routine tasks. So, okay, payroll, 30 seconds. Tell me why I should keep you now. We
Mm,
got AI. we're paying people, what else were you offering? Well, now payroll has the ability to provide you the unique insights that only payroll could offer. I don't know what your experience has been like, but I know for me, and even I see it with my payroll team, they are so intricately tied with the data. They could almost tell you this manager is going to be late with approvals. This location always has high amounts of overtime. And then through that, they can even connect to a larger story that, hey, maybe this manager is always on a leave of absence and their location has high amounts of overtime. Sounds like that there's burnout happening here. Sounds like that this location is understaffed. So you might want to pay attention to this location or do something here because this could be a risk later on in terms of your business operation. So the narrative is more so, yes, I'm not doing those routine tasks, but let me tell you about some of the insights I've seen in terms of the detail. Payroll also being uniquely connected with other parts of the business. We have deep insight in terms of what other teams need, what finance needs after we run the payroll, and they're trying to figure out their period reporting. Well, payroll, how did this map here? Help me understand why this is not balancing. Did we budget this right? Are our assumptions correct? Why are the actuals so different? Why is this higher? Oh, we had more pay periods this pay, or yeah, this is a new legislation. So now there's provincial changes in terms of how we have to pay this population. So the narrative is, yes, I'm not boggled down with these administrative tasks, but now I can tell you the story of the data I've been seeing this whole time that I haven't had the time to tell you, that I haven't had the time to even put the pieces together because every other part of the business is now relying on those insights after payroll's been completed. Payroll is seeing those insights real time.
Yeah. It's sort of an alarm system for the organization, like a Richter scale, like whatever is that contraption that can tell
Yeah,
when an
that tells
earthquake
you,
might be
yeah,
happening.
with the arrow. Yeah.
Before everybody's like, oh, right. That's
Exactly.
what a earthquake would look like, I guess. But but
Yeah.
the canary in the coal mine, or a bellwether, right, of what's going on in the organization. That is that is really that is just an indispensable. A lot of organizations are making all sorts of decisions without that information at their disposal, or without the inclination to seek it out. And of course, it's a symbiotic relationship between the payroll department and the payroll leaders and the rest of leadership in the organization.
Yeah.
But to somehow promote a culture at an organization where that payroll leader is elevated to an executive level position, that to me is the first. I don't know if there's a first step, but it's one of the first things to do to kind of get that mindset, to put that mindset in place, so that this all that great stuff that you were just describing will not fall on deaf ears. There'll actually be a line of communication. There'll be some sort of a, like the bat phone, or right, whatever, like to call up the C-suite. Hey, before you guys go to Malta, you might want to know X, Y, Z, right? Something like that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. On that aspect, I do think that is important. I think the challenge with that is it's hard to make room if
Sure.
you don't know what am I making room for.
Yeah.
So I think it's also important that payroll, going back to the art of storytelling, payroll now also has to learn how to use its voice.
Mm.
When I was in my role, even as a payroll manager, I was forever coming to my boss with, hey, why can't we do this? Hey, let me ask you this. And even showing natural inquisition about how the business is happening and tying that to your insights, it then starts to signal, oh, wait, you're doing more than just paying people. You actually do have unique insights. You do have abilities, because how could a payroll person implement an HCM system who's never been trained in IT.
Yeah.
How was I able to do that? Because I've worked in payroll, because I've worked with payroll systems, because
Yeah.
I've seen that result of inputs. I've seen the result of bad testing. I've seen the outcome of good testing, and I can see how those outcomes are relayed. So I have to make that known that I have those insights. The more you make that known, then yes, they need to make room and they will understand why you're bringing value that we didn't recognize before, because a lot of those insights can be tied up in finance, finance conversations or HR conversations or IT conversations. And so then the voice of payroll gets muted because you don't know the role that payroll played for them to get to that result. So once you can speak up as the payroll person, and then the connection can be made. Oh, wait. So wasn't just finance operating in a vacuum, or wasn't just HR operating in a vacuum? It's like, no, payroll was part of the story the whole time. And here's how we contribute to the story. That then makes it easy to say, okay, so we see why your values, why your insights have value and why we need to make room for you at these higher levels of the organization.
Yeah. It's so many additional sort of strands here to kind of explore in the conversation, and I wish we had more time because we're talking about, having a close relationship payroll with HR, that being sort of a piece of the puzzle.
Yes,
And we've talked on the podcast about, payroll living under finance or HR and the
yes,
sort of
yes,
the
yes.
pros and cons of each, right? And that's kind of interesting. And that would be a rabbit hole that would last us at least an hour here, right? And also sort of that talk, the storyline, and this is, but I think the key takeaway here that I'm getting is that, um, it's actually a time to be excited and anticipatory in
Yes,
payroll. It's not a time to be scared and, oh, AI is gonna, all I can do is process payroll. AI is gonna do it for me. What am I gonna do, right?
we're still
Don't think that way.
it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to finally have time. You're not held down by a 14-day pay period cycle. You have more time now to explore all the skills, all the things you've been seeing, and understand how valuable that information is to the organization. So there's no need to really be fearful of AI. We just need to be prepared that when it comes, that our skills are ready, that we're confident, we know what our narrative is, we know what the story is, we know what we bring to the table. But AI is not meant to hold us back. It's actually meant to propel us forward. And it can do that for the payroll professional by opening other doors.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't have put it any better myself. And that's why we have you as a guest today. Um, Thank you so much, Heather. Really, really encouraging words for payroll professionals today. And I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I appreciate being here as well. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Future of Workforce Management and Payroll Insights by HR.com. We hope today's episode brought you valuable insights and fresh perspectives on the future of payroll and workforce management. Be sure to check out more episodes and explore resources at HR.com/podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, keep innovating and making a difference in the world of payroll and workforce management.